Let's take a look at some Dash charts from this week's article on Brave New Coin. So this is the Dash issuance rate or inflation per year. And as you can see, in mid 2016, it started to get a little more predictable as far as not a halving, but when a decrease in inflation occurs about every 385 days. It's a 7.14% decrease set for about sometime next month. So it's coming up. It's very soon. We'll see if this has any impact on price at all. My guess is it will not, just because the prior dates haven't seemed to have had that much of an impact. If we compare Dash to other coins with privacy capabilities, these aren't necessarily privacy by default coins like Monero and Grin, where you can't even see the transaction volume or the active addresses. These are coins that have a built-in service similar to CoinJoin or a mixing service, that sort of thing. Dash has PrivateSend. It has a mixing service. So both of those services are going to inflate the transactions per day and daily active addresses on the chain. It's also got the highest fees. So it tells me it's a mixture of scalability issues and use issues, or it's being used a lot, which is bullish for any chain. The total fees aren't even that high. It's just that they're that much higher than a lot of other things. Now, if I had a choice between optional privacy on Dash and default privacy on Monero, given that there's basically the same fee, I would just use Monero, because why wouldn't you? But that's just me. So overall, Dash is looking pretty well comparatively to everything. And again, I don't know why Zeke's daily transaction volume is always so high. It doesn't make any sense to me. It might be something to do with their shielded, non-shielded stuff. I don't know, honestly. GitHub commits for PIVX have always been up there. But in general, Dash in the red here is doing pretty well on all the other metrics when you compare Dash to other privacy coins. Look at that Dash hash rate. It actually hit an all-time high this year in late January. Didn't really see a lot of noise about that. But Dash has a hybrid proof of work, proof of stake system. And ever since that spike to all-time highs, it's kind of petered off here, decreased, plateaued, however you want to say it, over the past few months with price. It didn't have as big of a down drop like on March 12th. It had a little bit of a spike down, but nothing out of the ordinary for Dash. So overall, pretty bullish. You always want to see hash rate increasing. It just says there's interest and belief in the future of the chain, as well as ASIC development or improvements in proof of work for that chain. Now, this is the proof of stake side of things, master nodes. So you need 10,000 Dash to have a master node, and a master node also confirms transactions. It's part of the network security. And you can see ever since January 2019, it's kind of plateaued and hasn't really continued its previous trajectory of predicted increases. Overall, though, Dash being a 2014 coin has survived. I think in large part that's because of its governance, because of its treasury system, and because of its master nodes. All three of those sort of give the chain a job, give people something to do with a coin other than just speculate on it and just dump it when they feel like it. There's an investment here. There's a need for return on investment here when you're buying 10,000 Dash and then hoping that it pays off or more over time. Now, this is the PrivateSend transactions per day. You can see it's not very many. Certainly, all the other chains with privacy capabilities likely have more PrivateSend or privacy enabling transactions per day. It's plateaued a little bit here. But overall, it's certainly up since 2015. It's continued year over year, and this is what you want to see. To me, it shows that there's some confidence in the PrivateSend side, or the ability for privacy on Dash for at least a small number of people. But you'll definitely want to see this increasing over decreasing throughout the year. And same thing with the mixing stuff. Many more mixing transactions than PrivateSend transactions. Big jump in January 2019. But ever since then, it's kind of just flattened out. And you definitely want to see this whirlpool, or whatever you want to call it, coin mixing stuff increasing if you're bullish on the chain. Especially if there's the privacy narrative, which always is in the background. Not many people care about it on a day-to-day basis until, Zoom says they're sending your data to China or something like that. Then all of a sudden, privacy is a really big issue. But until it's a perpetual just given that, okay, Dash is the chain that we use for privacy, which I don't think will ever be the case. But if you ever see that, then you can say with a pretty high degree of certainty that that's pretty bullish for the coin itself. Here we have transactions per day in the line here, average transaction values, the fill here. And overall, since 2018, it's sort of plateaued. Certainly it's increased a little bit, around 20,000 transactions per day with stress testing peaks or spam or noise, whatever this is. Certainly not organic, not sustainable. Outliers is what I'd call them. But in general, this data is much more believable. And the average transaction values have kind of ranged around $500 per transaction. Definitely not a bearish picture overall because transactions aren't decreasing per se year over year. We're certainly up since 2017 and up since 2018, just not by a significant amount. What a bearish outlook would be, sharp decrease in transactions or just month over month decay of transactions. But what you really want to see is a sustained increase in transactions. That just says there's a lot of activity on the chain, robust organic activity. This is MVRV, which is another inverse metric for crypto native on-chain activity. MVRV is in the fill here. I usually have it as a line. I put the line for price here just to show that the peak in MVRV in 2017 was a peak all-time high in price. Previous peaks in MVRV tend to be peaks in price. Just eyeballing it, you can see that. You don't need some fancy metric to look at that. But now you can see that MVRV is pretty low historically, way below 1, which is, this is 0.5 here, but it's way below 1. This is the scale for MVRV. And in a vacuum, I would say this is incredibly bullish. What I don't know is how this mixing transactions and PrivateSend transactions are affecting MVRV, the calculation. My guess is it's pushing the calculation down, but certainly the chain use plus the decrease in price is pushing MVRV down pretty far. So again, this is a bullish picture if you're a believer in Dash. If you look at NVT, which is the line here, and daily active addresses or monthly active addresses, which is the fill, you can see that monthly active addresses since January 2019, since all that mixing stuff started, have been ranging at the highs, which is good. Over the course of the year, you want to see this begin to increase. If you're bullish, you don't want to see it decrease if you're bullish. NVT, again, inverse metric of economic utility, is pretty much at a multi-year low. And again, I don't know if this value can really be trusted just because the chains are different pre and post January 2019 when the mixing stuff really took off, when the PrivateSend stuff really took off. So there may be some fancy curation that you need to do to really understand what's going on here. But in a vacuum, more bullish than bearish. All right, let's look at some technicals. My favorite of all the metrics. This is VPVR, volume profile of the visible range. Yearly pivots here, the lines, which are mathematically calculated based on the previous year. The 50 and the 200 EMAs, the green and the red here. RSI, which I just use as a momentum indicator to look at extreme highs, extreme lows, as well as divergences. Here's a really great example of divergence here. You're getting lower lows in RSI, higher highs in RSI, or in price. So that's a bearish divergence. It just says the momentum is dwindling. So there's no divergences here. RSI did hit a pretty good low, multi-month low. Always a good sign that a bottom gets put in there. We broke previous support. We hit multi-year lows. There's no there's no price history in here. So it just sort of bounced because the market bounced. I don't think it bounced necessarily because of anything on this chart particularly. It's above the VPVR support here of 45.50. It's above VPVR level around 75. And as far as the upside is concerned, I'll be looking at 100. I'll be looking at 120. These previous local highs, this previous local high. So just like pretty much every other chart right now in altcoin land, it's just a local high game as far as upside resistance. And this is likely 200. I think this is this level here, this consolidation here. So pretty much every altcoin you're looking at psychological resistance levels and you're looking at local highs, which coincide pretty well with psychological resistance. Looking at the cloud, you can see throughout 2018, pretty standard bear trend, very small bull trend in 2019, Q2 to Q3, and then bear trend again throughout the rest of 2019 under the cloud, then a muted bull trend again, and now it's just a ranging hot mess at this point. 85 or a little bit higher, 88 is the flat cloud Kijun level, which is the 50% of this range high, range low. That's where price is going to want to come back to. There's no long trade here until price is back above the cloud. It does have this really stretched atom with an Eve here. You can see a giant V and then a U. Certainly more bullish than bearish. You typically see bullish breakouts on the cloud paired with chart patterns that are bullish reversals. So like here we had the ascending triangle, bullish breakout. So this is what you call confluence, folks. Definitely more bullish than bearish. You definitely want to see it above 88, above 100. I want to see some price history between 88 and 130 again to establish consolidation at the previous local high. Then looking at Dash BTC, the first thing that strikes me is the multi-year consolidation that Dash BTC had from 2014 to 2017, mid 2017. And then it's just pretty much been nothing since then. There's a diamond top up here, and here's a mean reversion, one mean reversion test in 2 years. And then, it popped up above the 200 again in January, but it's back in this garbly mess. What I don't like from a trend perspective is that it's back in this massive, massive consolidation zone. So I don't want to touch this until it's above 017 basically for the long side. I mean, look at all this volume that's in here. It's currently underneath that or just near that, but this is just going to be Chop City, population Dash BTC.